Before you go to sleep tonight, do something so small that your mind will try to dismiss it. Stand near an open window or step outside for 1 minute. Not 10 minutes, not a ritual. 1 minute. Let the wind touch your face without turning it into a performance. Do not force your breathing. Do not close your eyes if that makes you tense. Let your jaw hang a little heavier than usual. Let your shoulders drop only enough that you can notice the weight of them. Let the skin under your eyes, the bridge of your nose, the corners of your mouth, and the thin surface of your forehead meet the air. Feel the difference between air that is still and air that moves. Still air sits on you. Moving air writes across you. There is no need to understand anything yet. Just notice the first signal. The tiny coolness across the cheeks. The almost invisible tightening around the nostrils. The way your breathing changes before you decide to change it. The way your face becomes the most awake part of your body, even though the rest of you is preparing to sleep. That contradiction matters, because your face is not just the front of your head, it is a living border. It is where temperature, pressure, breath, light, humidity, threat, memory, and calm are constantly being measured. And when wind touches it before bed, your body receives a message that no screen, no mattress, no supplement, and no motivational idea can imitate. The message is not dramatic. It is physical. A few seconds of moving air can make your face feel more present than it has felt all day. That is strange, because nothing has really happened. You have not exercised, you have not stretched, you have not eaten, you have not meditated for half an hour. You have simply allowed invisible motion to pass over skin. But your body does not measure importance by size. It measures importance by signal. A gust of air across the face is one of the oldest signals your nervous system knows. Long before bedrooms had sealed windows, long before artificial light pushed night backward, long before your last hour of the day was spent staring into a glowing rectangle, your face was exposed to changes in air. Wind meant weather. Wind meant direction. Wind meant cooling. Wind meant the outside world was still there. Wind meant that your body was not locked inside its own heat. Now, the modern evening often removes that last conversation. You sit in a room with air that barely moves. Your face is lit but not cooled. Your eyes are stimulated but your skin is starved. Your brain receives novelty through pixels, while the surface of your body receives almost nothing. And then you ask your nervous system to sleep. It hesitates. Because sleep is not only the absence of thinking, sleep is a transition in the whole body. Temperature must shift. Breathing must soften. Threat detection must reduce. The heart must change rhythm. The brain must stop treating the world as something that needs constant inspection. And your face helps decide whether that transition has begun. This is the paradox. The face is built to detect danger quickly, but the right kind of facial signal can also help the body descend. The same surface that flinches from a punch, squints into sun, tightens in stress, and burns with embarrassment can also tell the nervous system that the day is losing heat. A small wind can become a biological boundary, not because wind is magical, because moving air changes the physics of the skin. And Stephen Hawking understood something about physics that most people forget when they think about the body. Energy is not a feeling floating inside you. Energy is exchange. It is temperature, movement, radiation, pressure, boundary, loss, conservation, and transformation. Hawking looked at the most extreme boundaries in the universe and asked what happens when energy is not trapped completely. What leaks? What radiates? What changes when a surface is not perfectly silent? Your face before bed is obviously not a black hole, but the principle is useful. A boundary is never nothing. Your skin is not a wall, it is an interface. And moving air across that interface changes what your nervous system believes is happening to the body. So the question is not whether wind can make you sleepy like a drug. The The question is stranger. Why does the brain care so much about air touching the face at all? Your face contains one of the densest sensory maps in your entire body. In the brain, the face occupies a massive amount of territory in the somatosensory cortex, the strip of tissue that builds your felt sense of your own body. This is why a tiny irritation near the eye can dominate your attention more than pressure on your thigh. It is why a small change in the lips can be felt with absurd precision. It is why the face can betray emotion before language catches up. Your facial skin is packed with receptors that report pressure, vibration, stretch, pain, and temperature. Mechanoreceptors translate movement into electrical signals, which means the skin turns physical deformation into nerve language. Thermoreceptors translate warmth and coolness, which means temperature becomes a message. Free nerve endings detect irritation and potential harm, which means the face is never just decorative. It is surveillance tissue. Most of this information travels through the trigeminal nerve, the great sensory nerve of the face. The trigeminal nerve is not a delicate thread. It is a massive cable with 3 main branches, reaching the forehead and eyes, the cheeks and upper lip, the jaw and lower face. It carries the world from your face into the brainstem, the older, deeper part of the nervous system that regulates breathing, heart rhythm, alertness, and reflexes before you have time to narrate them. This is the first fact most people never learn. Your face has a direct line to old survival circuits. That is why cold air on your face feels different from cold air on your arm. Your arm reports cold. Your face negotiates with the brainstem. There is a reason clinicians and physiologists have used the cold face test for decades. In 1980, R.K. Khurana and colleagues described the cold face test as a way to assess trigeminal brainstem vagal reflex pathways in humans. The idea is simple. Cooling the face can activate sensory input through the trigeminal nerve and influence vagal output, the calming branch of autonomic regulation that can slow the heart and shift the body toward conservation. That does not mean a breeze before bed is the same as medical facial cooling. It is not. A 60-second contact with natural air is weaker, softer, and more variable. But it touches the same territory. It stimulates the same facial border. It reminds the body that the face is exposed to an environment, and that environment is cooler, moving, and non-digital. Think of the face as an old control panel at the front of a ship. The ship can still move without it. Engines can run, lights can stay on, instruments can blink in the cabin, but the front sensors tell the system what kind of world it is entering: wind speed, pressure, temperature, direction. When those sensors go quiet, the ship does not immediately brake. It simply navigates with less information. That is what modern indoor life does to your evening body. It does not destroy the system. It reduces environmental evidence. Hours of artificial light tell the eyes that the day has not ended. Warm indoor air tells the skin that cooling is unnecessary. Stillness tells the facial receptors almost nothing. A screen close to the face gives visual motion without real air motion. The brain receives stimulation without weather, and the body stays unresolved. If this kind of physical explanation is the reason you watch this channel, subscribe and leave a like now, because the smallest gestures are often where the deepest mechanisms hide. The mechanism begins the moment moving air touches your facial skin. At the surface, wind increases convective heat transfer. That phrase sounds technical, but the sensation is simple. Moving air steals heat from the thin, warm layer that sits on your skin. Your body is always surrounded by a tiny boundary layer of warmed air, almost like an invisible blanket. When the air is still, that layer stays close. When wind moves, that layer is disturbed. Warmth leaves faster. Coolness becomes sharper. Your skin notices instantly. Thermoreceptors in the face respond to the change. Cold-sensitive fibers increase firing when temperature drops across the skin. Mechanoreceptors detect the light movement and pressure variation. Around the nostrils, Airflow changes the sensation of breathing even when the volume of air has barely changed. The face becomes a map of small, moving gradients. A gradient is a difference across space. Warm here, cooler there. Still here, moving there. Dry here, moist there. The nervous system loves gradients because gradients mean information. A perfectly uniform room tells the body almost nothing. Moving air tells it where the boundary is. Within milliseconds to seconds, the trigeminal nerve carries that information inward. Signals enter the brainstem, especially sensory trigeminal nuclei, which communicate with networks involved in autonomic regulation, breathing, arousal, and protective reflexes. This is not conscious philosophy. It is low-level body accounting. Your body asks a simple question. Is the surface cooling, and is the environment safe enough to allow downshifting? This is where the face becomes more than skin. Cooling of the face is known to interact with cardiac autonomic control. Research on face cooling has shown that facial cold stimulation can reveal parasympathetic and sympathetic responses, and studies of cold stimulation have reported patterns consistent with increased cardiac vagal activation. In one 2018 randomized controlled trial, Michael Jungmann and colleagues examined cold stimulation and cardiac vagal activation in healthy participants, showing that cold stimulation can influence vagal cardiac control. Again, your evening breeze is not ice water. It is not a clinical protocol. But the direction of the biology matters. The face is a privileged entrance to autonomic reflexes. The immediate layer is skin to nerve to brainstem. Then the secondary cascade begins. As the face cools slightly, your breathing often changes without command. You may inhale more clearly through the nose. You may pause at the top or bottom of a breath. You may exhale longer because the cool air makes each breath more noticeable. This matters because nasal breathing is not only air transport, it is rhythmic sensory input. In 2016, Cristina Zolano and colleagues at Northwestern University showed that natural breathing synchronizes electrical activity in human piriform cortex and limbic brain areas, including regions linked with emotion and memory. In plain language, breath through the nose can time activity in parts of the brain that help decide how emotionally charged the world feels. This is not the same as saying 1 minute of wind fixes anxiety. It does not. But it means airflow and brain rhythm are not separate subjects. Breathing is a metronome with tissue around it. When wind touches the face before bed, it can sharpen awareness of the breath without requiring you to perform a breathing exercise. That distinction is important. A forced breathing technique can become another task, another thing to do correctly, another small pressure at the end of the day. But wind on the face gives the breath texture. It lets the body notice air without turning attention into effort. That can change the tone of the evening. The cascade continues through temperature regulation. Human sleep is linked to thermoregulation, the body's management of heat. Before sleep, the body tends to redistribute heat, often allowing core temperature to decline. Warm hands and feet can help dissipate heat, while a cooler environment supports the larger nighttime cooling process. Your face is not the whole system, but it is one of the most sensitive exposed surfaces. A small, cool signal there can become a cue that the body is no longer in the heated posture of the day. The common belief is that sleep begins when the mind stops thinking. The mechanism rewrites it. Sleep begins when the body receives enough physical evidence that the day is no longer demanding defense. That evidence can be darkness. It can be lower temperature. It can be stillness. It can be familiar sound. And sometimes it can be wind. Wind also changes the emotional meaning of the face. During the day, the face works constantly. It performs. It reacts. It watches. It holds tension around the eyes. It clamps the jaw during concentration. It absorbs blue-white light. It carries social expression even when you are alone. By night, the facial muscles may still be wearing the day like a mask. Moving air gives the face a non-social stimulus. Nobody is looking at you. Nothing is asking you to respond. The skin is being contacted without judgment. The receptors fire, but not because of conflict, performance, or information overload. The signal is simple and old. Air is passing. The body can stop posing. This is the systemic effect that nobody expects. The gesture is not just about the face. It can change how the whole body locates itself in time, because the nervous system does not enter sleep from the brain alone. It enters sleep through a sequence of sensory permissions. The eyes need less light. The ears need predictable sound or tolerable silence. The skin needs less threat. The muscles need enough safety to release guarding. The breath needs room to slow. The heart needs permission to leave daytime acceleration. The face sits at the front of that negotiation. And this is where Hawking becomes more than a name in the title. Hawking's work on black hole radiation forced physics to take boundaries seriously. A black hole was not just a dark object. Its horizon, the edge beyond which ordinary escape seemed impossible, became a place where temperature, quantum effects, and energy could no longer be ignored. The boundary had behavior. Your body has boundaries too. Skin is not empty wrapping. Breath is not just oxygen delivery. The face is not just identity. These are places where the body exchanges information with the world. When the modern bedroom is sealed, heated, lit, and silent in the wrong way, the boundary becomes impoverished. It still exists, but it receives fewer natural changes. You are surrounded by comfort, but comfort without variation can become sensory fog. Wind cuts through that fog without violence. It gives the face a reason to report. And once the face reports, the brainstem listens. There is another layer, and it has to do with prediction. Your brain is constantly predicting the next state of your body. It predicts how warm you will be, how fast you need to breathe, how alert you should remain, how much muscle tone is necessary, how dangerous the environment might be. These predictions are not abstract. They are built from incoming signals. If the final hour before bed is a storm of artificial signals, the predictions become confused. Visual novelty says, stay alert. Social content says, evaluate. Work messages say, prepare. Indoor warmth says, no cooling needed. Physical stillness says, nothing has changed. Your body has no clean boundary between day and night. Then you lie down and wonder why the mind continues. The mind continues because the body has not been given enough external proof that the state has changed. A minute of wind on the face is a tiny state change. Not enough to solve everything, enough to mark a border. In engineering, a sensor does not need to be enormous to recalibrate a system. A thermostat can change a furnace, a pressure valve can protect a boiler, a tiny accelerometer can orient a phone, a thermal camera can reveal heat the eye cannot see. The signal is small, but it enters the control loop. Your face is in the control loop, and the wind is input. If this is already making you think about your own night routine differently, write one concrete detail in the comments later. Where would you feel the wind before bed? At a window, on a balcony, outside a door, or near a quiet street? Make it specific, because the body understands places better than ideas. The absence of this gesture in modern life does not create one dramatic symptom. It creates a pattern of missing cues. You may know the pattern. You feel tired but not sleepy. Your body is heavy, but your face feels wired. Your eyes burn, but they keep searching. Your jaw stays slightly active after the day is over. You lie down and your breathing feels shallow. Not because your lungs forgot how to breathe, but because the body has not found a clean descent. You feel overheated under the blanket, but strangely unwilling to get up. You wake in the night with the sense that the room is stale, even if the room is quiet. Most people blame discipline. They think they did not wind down correctly. They think they need a stronger routine, a stricter supplement stack, a more perfect sleep schedule, another technique. Sometimes those things matter. But the body is not only waiting for instructions, it is waiting for conditions. The modern room often removes wind, temperature shift, darkness, distance, texture, and environmental rhythm, then asks the nervous system to manufacture sleep from intention. Intention is weak compared to physics. For thousands of years, the end of the day came with a change in air. Temperature fell, wind shifted, light softened. The skin knew the difference before language named it. The face felt evening. The nose met cooler air. The body did not need a notification that night had begun. The environment delivered the notification through the surface of the body. Now the evening can be physically almost identical to the afternoon. Same temperature, same chair, same screen, same indoor air, same visual intensity, same mental speed. Time changes on the clock, but not enough changes on the skin. This is why a tiny sensory act can feel disproportionate. Wind on the face is not powerful because it overwhelms the nervous system. It is powerful because it gives the nervous system a kind of evidence modern life has made rare. A difference, a before and after, a threshold. In sleep research, the bedroom environment matters. Studies of ventilation, air temperature, and indoor air quality have examined how naturally ventilated rooms and CO2 levels relate to subjective sleep quality and next-day performance. A 2021 field study by X. Zhang and colleagues investigated bedroom air temperature, carbon dioxide concentration, and sleep quality in naturally ventilated bedrooms. Other work has examined how ventilation affects bedroom environment and sleep during the heating season. The exact results depend on climate, room, person, and method. But the larger point is stable. Sleep does not happen in a vacuum. It happens in air. Your brain sleeps inside a body, and that body sleeps inside a room. If the room tells the body nothing, the brain has to guess. Wind reduces guessing. Even when the window is open for only a minute, you feel the room become less sealed. You feel the temperature difference between indoors and outdoors. You smell outside air, even faintly. The nostrils detect humidity, dust, plants, pavement, rain, cold, distance. The cheeks cool. The forehead clears. The body receives a transition cue that is older than language. The common mistake is to treat this as relaxation. It is more precise than relaxation. It is sensory reorientation. Relaxation is an outcome you hope for. Reorientation is an input you can give. You are telling the body, through the face, that the environment has changed. The day is no longer only inside. The sealed loop has been opened. That matters because stress is not just a thought pattern. Stress is also a prediction pattern. If your body predicts that demands are still active, it keeps resources available. Glucose, attention, muscle tone, scanning, faster reaction. Useful during the day, expensive at night? A cool moving signal across the face can slightly contradict that prediction. It says, not with words, that the world is quieter, colder, wider, and less demanding than the screen suggested. This is why the face before bed matters more than the hand or the shoulder in this specific gesture. The hand explores, the shoulder carries, the feet orient. But the face detects atmosphere. It faces the world first. It receives the wind before the torso does. It is the surface most associated with alertness, identity, breathing, expression, and threat detection. When that surface softens, the whole body notices. Not instantly for everyone. Not dramatically every night. But enough that the mechanism deserves respect. Because the body is not a machine that turns off when the brain issues an order. It is an ecosystem that changes state when enough signals agree. The wind is one vote. The darkness is another. The lowered light is another. The unclenched jaw is another. The longer exhale is another. Sleep comes more easily when the votes begin to align. This is not a cure for insomnia. It is not medical treatment. It does not replace evaluation for sleep apnea, anxiety disorders, chronic pain, medication effects, hormonal issues, or anything else that can disturb sleep. It is a small physiological cue, not a solution to every night problem. But small cues matter because the nervous system is built from thresholds. Enough heat and you sweat. Enough darkness and melatonin timing shifts. Enough pressure and skin fires. Enough stretch and muscle spindles report. Enough carbon dioxide and breathing changes. Enough facial cooling and autonomic reflexes can be influenced. Your body is full of doors that open because a small physical variable crossed a line. Wind works near one of those doors. It does not knock loudly. It changes the air at the face. Now expand the system beyond sleep. The face is not only sensory skin, it is also where breathing and emotion meet. When you are startled, the face changes. When you are ashamed, the face heats. When you are focused, the brow tightens. When you are disgusted, the nose and mouth react. When you are trying not to cry, the face holds back an entire nervous system. The face is a public surface for private physiology. That means giving the face a neutral, natural stimulus before bed can interrupt the emotional residue of the day. Not by arguing with your thoughts, not by convincing you that everything is fine, by giving the facial system a different job. Feel temperature, feel motion, feel breath, feel night. The nervous system often changes more easily through tasks than through commands. Tell your jaw to relax, and it may resist. Let cool air pass over the cheeks, and the jaw may release indirectly. Tell yourself to calm down, and the mind may debate. Let the breath become textured by outdoor air, and the body may find a slower rhythm without negotiation. This is the intelligence of indirect physiology. The body does not always need a speech, it needs a route. Wind provides a route through the trigeminal system, through nasal airflow, through thermoregulation, through attention, through the felt boundary between inside and outside. There is also an evolutionary reason this route exists. Mammals evolved in moving air. Faces were never meant to spend every evening in a sealed climate bubble, lit from inches away by a rectangle. The facial sensory system developed in a world where air carried weather, scent, smoke, moisture, decay, water, plants, animals, and social proximity. The face sampled the environment continuously. To feel wind before bed is not a lifestyle hack. It is a brief return to baseline sampling. Baseline does not mean primitive. It means the condition under which the system learned to regulate itself. You do not need to romanticize the past to admit that the body evolved with environmental variation. Temperature changed, light changed, air moved, surfaces differed. Sound widened and narrowed. Night had physical signatures. Modernity gave us extraordinary protection, but it also flattened signals. The problem is not comfort. Comfort is valuable. The problem is comfort without contrast. A room that is always the same gives the body fewer reasons to transition. A face that is always indoors receives less atmospheric information. A nervous system that is always stimulated visually but rarely contacted physically becomes top-heavy. Too much signal in the eyes, not enough signal in the skin. Wind brings the signal down. It spreads attention across the surface. This is why 60 seconds is enough to begin. The gesture is not trying to exhaust you. It is trying to mark the state change. The point is not duration as heroism. The point is a clean input at the right time. Just before bed, the nervous system is waiting for the final evidence of night. If you give it another scroll, it receives threat, novelty, comparison, speed, faces, words, light, and unfinished loops. If you give it wind, it receives temperature, air movement, breath texture, and boundary. Those are different languages. And the body is bilingual, but not equally fluent at midnight. Near sleep, the body understands physics better than argument. For the protocol, keep it almost embarrassingly simple. Choose a place where the air is safe to breathe and the temperature is not extreme. An open window is enough. A balcony is enough. A doorway is enough. If the outside air is polluted, smoky, freezing, dangerously hot, or triggering for allergies or asthma, do not force it. The mechanism depends on tolerable sensory contrast, not punishment. Stand or sit upright. Let the face be uncovered. Remove the phone from the hand or turn the screen away, because visual urgency competes with facial sensation. Keep the mouth relaxed, but breathe mostly through the nose if you can. Nasal airflow matters because the nose is a sensory organ, not just an air pipe. Then count 60 seconds slowly. For the first 15 seconds, do not change anything. Let the wind find your face. Notice where it touches first. Forehead, eyelids, nostrils, cheekbones, lips, chin. The first contact tells you where your attention has been absent. From 15 to 30 seconds, notice temperature. Not cold as an idea, coolness as a moving edge. The skin may feel slightly tighter. The nostrils may feel clearer. The eyes may water a little if the air is dry or strong. That is information, not a goal. From 30 to 45 seconds, notice the breath. If the exhale lengthens naturally, allow it. Do not manufacture a dramatic breathing pattern. The point is not to dominate the respiratory system. It is to let airflow make breathing perceptible. From 45 to 60 seconds, notice the face as a whole. The tiny muscles around the eyes, the jaw, the tongue, the forehead. If something softens, do not chase it. If nothing softens, the gesture still gave the body a boundary cue. Then close the window or step back inside and go toward bed without adding another stimulation loop. This last part matters. If you feel the wind and then immediately return to scrolling, the nervous system receives mixed instructions. The body was told night, the eyes were told hunt, the face was cooled, the brain was accelerated. The threshold becomes muddy. The wind should be near the end of the sequence, not the beginning of another hour awake. There are variations. If you cannot stand, sit. If you cannot go outside, use a cracked window. If the weather is harsh, open the window briefly and let the room air change, then stand near the gentler current. If facial cold is uncomfortable, use mild moving air instead of cold air. If you have trigeminal neuralgia, migraine triggered by cold wind, severe sinus sensitivity, asthma, or any condition worsened by cold air, adapt or skip the gesture. Biology is specific. A good signal for one body can be too sharp for another. The sign that the mechanism is active is not instant sleepiness. The sign is clearer facial sensation, a more noticeable nasal breath, a slight shift in jaw or eye tension, a feeling that the room has become less stale, or a small drop in the urge to keep looking at something. These are modest signs because the mechanism is modest. Respect modesty. The body often changes direction before it changes state. The biggest error is turning the gesture into performance. Do not stand there trying to feel profound. Do not judge the minute. Do not demand that your heart rate drop. Do not make the wind prove itself. The more aggressively you monitor relaxation, the more you turn relaxation into another task. Let the signal arrive and leave. The second error is using air that is too intense. Strong, cold wind can become a stressor. The goal is not to shock the face. It is to create a clean contrast between sealed indoor stimulation and natural moving air. The third error is doing it while emotionally feeding the same loop you are trying to exit. If you stand at the window reading messages, the face receives night while the mind receives conflict. You have not made a transition. You have made a contradiction. The fourth error is believing the gesture works by belief. It does not need belief. It needs skin, air, nerve, temperature, breath, and timing. That is enough. If you want the next script in this series to break down another tiny gesture through real physiology, subscribe and leave a like before the video ends, because the body keeps hiding large systems inside movements nobody respects. Now the final idea. The wind on your face before bed is not about becoming calmer in the way the internet sells calm. It is not a personality upgrade. It is not a secret known only to disciplined people. It is a reminder that your body was built to read the world before it was built to explain itself. The skin reads before the mind interprets. The breath changes before the thought completes. The face receives the night before the brain names it. Hawking spent his life thinking about realities that human senses could not directly touch. Black holes, time, radiation, singularities, the strange behavior of energy at the edge of what seems knowable. But the lesson that reaches the body is not that everything must be cosmic to matter. Sometimes the cosmic lesson is that boundaries are alive with consequence. A horizon can radiate, a surface can exchange. A tiny change at the edge can alter the fate of the whole system. Your face is one of your edges, and every night, modern life tries to make that edge numb. It gives the eyes too much and the skin too little. It fills the mind with distant emergencies while the body sits in unmoving air. It asks you to fall asleep as if sleep were a button in the skull, not a surrender negotiated across flesh. So when you let the wind touch your face, you are not escaping civilization. You are restoring a conversation civilization interrupted. The air moves, the skin answers, the nerve carries the message inward. The breath finds texture. The room stops being a sealed container and becomes part of the world again. And for 1 minute before sleep, you remember something your body never forgot. Night is not only a time, it is a change in the air.